Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss Degree First Semester English Question Paper Part B. Before I begin the discussion of the questions, I would like to request you all to press that like button if you really make sense out of this video. And your pressing the like button means a lot because it will get shared to many other students who are really willing to prepare for the examination. So please press that like button. Okay, let's move into the video. Part B. Answer any four of the following questions. So out of the 8 given questions, you are supposed to answer 4 only. So the ninth question. Reading the poem in the bazaars of Hyderabad is an experience that involves senses. Discuss. So Sarojini Naidu is the poet of this poem, and she is a world famous Indian poetess. As a true patriot, she wrote mainly about India. With rich content and of high artistic quality, her poetry impressed the readers many a time. And in this poem, she tries to appeal, not tries to appeal, she appeals to all our senses of sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. Why? Because there is a very clear and vivid description of the clothes, ornaments, flowers, and the goldsmiths' ornaments, so many things, and they offer pleasant sights and touch. Flowers thrill our smell organs. Fruits taste and music pleases our ears. So, in the bazaars of Hyderabad was written when the Swadeshi movement was in full swing, if you all remember. Okay, the call was to boycott foreign goods, and Sarojini Naidu rose to the occasion. Indian wares find an excellent expression in the poem. Indian social, political, and cultural conditions form a wonderful backdrop. Philosophical angle to joins the scenes glorifying the spiritual outlook of India. On the surface, the poem describes various wares Indian streets offer. The question answer format renders a conversational and a chatty touch to the poem. If you remember, every stanza is an answer to the question. She begins the stanza with a question and then the answer follows. So the poem has 5 stanzas of 6 lines each, and and every stanza asks a question. So in the poem she talks about the merchants and their articles, and then the goldsmiths what they prepare, and then the flower girls, fruit men, and the musicians. So all these people, they appear in her poem, and it really involves our senses experiences. It's a pleasure to all the 5 senses. Now we move on to the 10th question. The narrator is an imaginative person. Support this assertion by providing evidence that is unconnected to the girl on the train. If you recollect, this is Unit 1 prose question. So, Ruskin Bond is the creative artist of international reputation. He is the author of this lesson. He is a voluminous writer of great value, and his style is gripping and narration is absorbing. His works impress the young and the old alike. The present story, The Eyes Are Not Here, depicts an interesting meeting between a young man and a young girl. You all remember? They both are the passengers on the train, and both of them are blind, but they don't know that the other person is the blind, and they themselves try to pretend that they can see it. And the young man understands a girl is boarding the train he is traveling in, and he's excited and he's anxious to know how she looks. But he says she has an interesting face, though he gathers confidence, courage, and then he passes a comment that she has an interesting face. Actually, he is blind. She too is visually impaired. Yet they try to mislead each other. They are successful in tricking the other into believing they can see. So the instances where it is evident that they are blind are: first one is when the girl says, I didn't know anyone else was here. The narrator says, I didn't see you either. So I didn't see you either is actually a pretense. And the narrator says to himself, had she noticed already that I could not see? I faced it, making a pretense of and more. So this line tells that he is highly and imaginative and he thinks more. So the narrator is an imaginative person as we are trying to prove, and evidence to this effect in the story is aplenty. He knows well he has a game to play and a new fellow traveler. He says that the high-pitched voice must be that of her aunt. We see the narrator's resourcefulness quite often. So though he could not see people around, but he tries to deduce from the sounds he listens and he imagines things to be seen through the window as if the trees are passing by and all. So he extends his conversation and through his imagination. So that is an evidence. Read the lesson once again and then you can expand your answer. 11th question. The title of the poem, If, is short and to the point. How does this apply to the overall theme of the poem? And Rudyard Kipling is the author of this poem, If, and he is a very remarkable for its, I'm sorry, the poem is a very remarkable for its to the point message. The message is very clearly and it talks about how to become a man. Man is a representation of humanity here. And the title is very short. The theme of the poem is how to become a man, as we already discussed, and it is in the form of a series of suggestions. If you remember, if you read the poem, it is completely filled with instructions and suggestions. And these suggestions help one to develop moral and ethical attitudes. Each line, actually, each word in the poem contributes to the overall idea of the poem, that is, how to become a man. And this poem follows the methods discussed in the poem, and then the man in the person manifests. So it is actually a manifestation of the man. Every word of the poem adds value to the central idea, but the last two lines extend a powerful finishing touch to the theme. What makes one a real man? The poem answers this all important question in the form of a set of if conditions. And we all know that if always represents a condition. And if one fulfills those conditions, the earth and everything on it will become that person's things. But more important is the person transforms into a man. And he talks about all the virtues like patience, courage, and 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 not to get hurt, even in the events of getting provoked, we should not lose our cool. So we have to be patient. So all these virtues are given in the form of suggestions in this poem. Then the 12th question. Does the author feel sympathy for the liftman? Elaborate on your answer. A.G. Gardner is the author of this lesson on seeing please, and it's a practical lesson in manners. That means in inculcating manners among people. It opens with the anecdote involving the liftman. He was not respected by a passenger, and the passenger said, "Top," instead of "Top, please." The liftman was offended. So, as a result, what did he do? He just threw out the passenger. For that, the liftman was legally punished. No wonder he was punished. But the author fully sympathizes with the liftman, yet he cannot find fault with the law. He suggests a sweet revenge mode to the liftman. So that is about how the author, how A.G. Gardner really sympathizes the liftman. Though the liftman is punished, nobody can go against the law. So you can expand your answer on based upon these lines. And let's move on to question number 13. How does Ulysses describe Ithaca and its people? What is his attitude towards his subjects? So Ulysses is the king of this kingdom called Ithaca, and this poem is written by Alfred Tennyson, and he talks about all the qualities a king should have through this poem, Ulysses. And here, Ulysses thinks that his people are morose and lazy, and he describes his kingdom as a rocky island. He says that it is barren, and he calls his people uncivilized. He terms them a savage race, and he adds that they lead a mechanical life. They just stock things, eat, and sleep. That's all. They do not do any work. For them, to breathe is to live. But for Ulysses, rest from travel is death. To shine in use is what he prefers. So he doesn't want to sit at a place and get stagnated. He is a person of action, and he expects his people also to be very, very active, but he finds them very passive. And he's very adventurous. He wants to travel throughout and travel all over the world and go on an adventurous journey. And he cannot resist from travel. He feels that sails are calling him, and to sail until he dies is his ambition. So he wants his people also to be adventurous like him. 14th question. Our failure is in exact ratio to the seriousness of the occasion and to the depth of our feeling. What failure is Beerbohm talking about? Explain the meaning of this statement. So, Beerbohm himself is the author of this lesson, and he talks about the importance of seeing the people off. So he writes a very witty article, and then he presents the encounter between him and his friend in some of the anecdotes. And he also talks about how important it is to win the hearts of the people. So there in Britain, there was a custom of seeing the people, especially the Americans who came there to spend some time. And when they go off, when they leave London, they expect somebody to come and see them off. So Beerbohm was actually designated to do the job of seeing the people off. But he himself feels that he is very passive and he is very stoical without any expression, and he feels seeing people off is a very tough job. But actually, when he sees his one of his friends, Lee Ross, sending the people off with complete involvement through his heart, literally he could see tears in his heart when he was seeing of other people. So then he realizes that he has to really learn the communication, and he has to take training from his friend Lee Ross. That is about that is what he's trying to tell, that when our failure is in exact ratio to the seriousness of the occasion and to the depth of our feeling. So when he is doing the job of seeing the people off, it should come through his heart, not only through the lips. He was very he himself feels that he is very stoical, and he is not showing any kind of emotions. He's doing it mechanically. That's what Beerbohm feels. So read the lesson once again, revise, and then expand your answer. And 15th question. What does Milton focus on in the first 8 lines of the poem? What change do you notice in the final 6 lines? John Milton is a famous 17th century English poet, and he is a classical poet of peerless reputation. And Milton is regarded as the master of grand style. And the present poem, that is on his having arrived at the age of 23, is a sonnet. And you all know sonnet is a poem comprising of which comprises 14 lines, and it follows all the traditions of a sonnet in a true spirit. In terms of content and form, it observes a sonnet's conventions. That means it is a combination of an octave, which contains 8 lines, and a combination of 6 lines. So it's a sestet. I have made a video on this poem, students. If you are interested, I'm sharing the link in the description box. You can just go through it. And here in the first part of the poem, that is the 8 lines, he regrets that his 23 years have elapsed without much productive activity. And he also describes time as a thief who steals his youth. And then he adds that he is nearing manhood, yet the corresponding inner maturity is not clearly felt. And some happy souls, maybe his contemporaries or his classmates, they have acquired this maturity, and Milton is sometimes, he feels jealous of them. In the beginning, the tone of the poem is regretful, but as he concludes, the poem clearly presents a hopeful note. He says, if we have faith in God and if we really believe in God, and we will be blessed with success in every walk of our life. So, this total submission helps everyone to come to terms with their problems of time, and then they will be really productive and successful. That is what he's trying to tell in the final 6 lines. So the poem starts with a negative note or with a pessimistic note, and then finally it ends with a very energetic and a very positive note. And the last question, what are Gandhi's views on speaking versus staying silent? Do you agree with his views? Gandhi says that his shyness eventually turned out to be a useful trait. Explain. So, simple living and high thinking. This is the statement and this is the view of MK Gandhi's life. His insightful piece, Shyness, My Shield, mirrors his personality. That means it reflects his personality. And the article is simple in style, deep in its thoughts, and frank in expression, and noble in purpose. So Gandhi's views on speaking or staying silent are open and flexible. He says, I do fully agree to his views. He clearly says he wanted to speak, but he felt tongue tied always. He appreciated others when they spoke well. At the same time, he realizes the value of staying silent too. Silence helps one in many ways, but when a serious question comes up for discussion, staying silent is both cowardice and a crime. Cowardice means timid, not having courage. So, likewise, when there is no urgent issue to discuss and you speak, it is pomposity and a crime. That means when nobody expects you to speak and then you try to speak, it isn't of any use. So Gandhiji saw both opportunities in difficulties, and at the same time, he saw some kind of support in the failures. He converted his weaknesses into his strengths. His incapacity to speak in public helped him see the value of silence. So he understood both the values of speaking as well as being silent. So silence taught him to save time, energy, and words. And never did a single thoughtless word come out of him. So he was very, very careful in choosing the vocabulary and speaking appropriately to the point. So thus his shyness eventually turned out to be a useful trait and he really enjoyed it. So that is about some of the important questions which we may expect from part B for your examinations. Hope you all have got an idea of how to go about with your exam, and then all the very best in your exam, students. Do well, don't be nervous, and write your exam successfully. All the very best. And if you made sense out of this video, please do not forget to press that like button, and if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to my channel. It means a lot to me. Thank you. Bye bye. See you in another video.